Hare Krishna, Namaste. Chapter 12, which is entitled as Bhakti Yoga. Sloka 11, Part 2. Athaitad aśaktosi kartuṁ mad-yogam āśritaḥ sarva-karma-phala-tyāgaṁ tataḥ kuru yatātmavān. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. From the previous part, we learned that Atma-jnana, the knowledge of Atma, is the key factor for one to develop bhakti. Without understanding who we are, we will not come forward to perform bhakti. We won't be able to understand who God is, because bhakti involves bhakta and Bhagavan. Unless and until we understand that we are that Atma and I am the one who has to perform devotional service, and that devotional service needs to be performed towards Bhagavan, towards Krishna. This complete cycle will only happen if I know I am an Atma. If we don't have this understanding, obviously we will not be having any interest to perform any activities that Krishna recommended so far. But for one to understand and realize that he is Atma, not the body, he is different from body, is eternal soul, one has to perform karma yoga. By performing karma yoga, a person gradually progresses in this path and attains the Atma Prapti, attains the Atma. When that happens, further one develops taste and interest towards Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and performs bhakti. There are people who may be interested only in Atma Sukham, the happiness of Atma, after they attain the Atma Sakshatkara, and may not go beyond that point. And all we can say is it is a misfortune that they are able to have the vision of Atma, but they are pretty much settled with that, but not go beyond that point. So one must be careful even in that stage to not get caught with self-interest which is separate from God, but to develop supreme interest towards God. Krishna lowered his requirement from 8th sloka down to this 11th sloka is because if a person does not understand his Atma, he is not going to come forward to do anything else for me. One still doesn't understand and doesn't want to work for me, remember me, or to attain me, then it is very clear that that person has not understood that he is an Atma, a spirit soul. He feels he is the Deha, the body, and he is going to be happy forever in this body. That is why he doesn't want to work for me. That is why he doesn't want to remember me. That is why he doesn't want to fix his mind upon me. And that is why he doesn't want to attain me. For simple reason, he doesn't understand that he is Atma. That knowledge has not sprouted within him. For him to understand that he is spirit soul, there is no other option other than to perform karma yoga. When one performs karma yoga, then that leads one to Jnana Yoga, and after understanding the glories of Atma, that it is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and it is eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. It is Paramatma which is within him. With these understanding, he starts developing a taste towards Krishna and start engaging in physical activities for Krishna, then start appreciating Krishna's auspicious qualities by which he picks up and does bhakti in a regulated way. From there, he is able to fix his mind upon Krishna and Krishna only, and with the determination to attain Krishna, finally he does attain Krishna's lotus feet through the process of Bhakti Yoga. In the previous part, we ended with a question: if there is any difference between Atma Dhyana, between the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna has mentioned about meditation on Atma, and chapter 8, where Atma Dhyana is also mentioned over there? Answer is yes, there is a difference. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the Atma Jnana becomes a angam, a limb to perform Bhakti Yoga, to attain Supreme Lord. Whereas in chapter 8, the Atma Jnana is angam, a limb for Atma Sakshatkara. Both are jnana, both are knowledge, but one is greater and one is lower. The greater is the one which is explained in the first section of Bhagavad Gita 1 through 6, because that leads one towards Bhakti Yoga to attain the Supreme Lord. Whereas the Atma Jnana that is explained in the chapter 8 is lower, because it is directed towards the Atma Sakshatkara only. That is, Krishna is kept as a means to attain Atma, whereas the other one, Bhakti, is kept as the means to attain Krishna. So between these two, what is highly recommended is the knowledge that given in the first sections of Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter 1 through 6, because that leads one into Bhakti Yoga, and which is what Krishna wants every one of us to do. And that is exactly what is being discussed in the 11th sloka that we are seeing right now. What has been told here in the 11th sloka is by performing that recommendation, that is by performing Karma Yoga, that will lead one into Atma Sakshatkara, and then from there the Bhakti Yoga is performed. Again, why it is important that we realize that we are Atma? It is important because otherwise we will be thinking we are this body, and then our interest will be towards this body and material thing. We must not desire towards the material things, but one has to develop knowledge towards Atma. The interest towards Atma will not happen so easily, as we all have good experience with that. Therefore, sitting to do meditation on Atma is not an easy program by itself. One will not be able to meditate upon Atma fully, not even for a few minutes. The reason why we are not able to focus on Atma is because of our enemies who are stopping us to concentrate, meditate upon our Atma. Unless these enemies are destroyed, we will not be able to focus on Atma. And these enemies are none other than our vasanas and karmas. Unless we remove them, we will not be able to focus on Atma. And to remove these obstacles, we have to perform karma yoga, which is the only means. One more important point to be noted here: the obstacles, the enemies that we are talking here are those which are stopping us from attaining the Atma Prapti, not the Bhagavat Prapti. Those obstacles are different by itself. We all know there are three modes: Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. These three modes comes from the Prakriti. The body that we all have are a composition of these three modes. Because of the three modes that present in our body and in all different levels in mind as well, it produces raga and dvesha, that is attachment and hatred. Because of these attachments and hatred, we will not be able to meditate upon Atma. These are all obvious. We can see it's happening in our life day to day. This body is made of 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. And the 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Therefore, we are living very close to this body which is made of 5 elements, which is a combination of 3 gunas. It is reachable, unlike the spiritual world which is not reachable. So we can easily relate what's going on to us. We can see it happening, that how we have been tossed in all different directions, how we get impacted because of these 3 modes. We become attached to something and we hate something. So we certainly cannot see the 3 gunas. If we say show the 3 gunas, we cannot show, we cannot see. But that doesn't mean the 3 gunas doesn't exist. We can see their presences through the output, through the actions, through the thoughts, through the speech. How we behave when we are in Sattva Guna, how we behave when we are in Rajoguna, how we behave when we are in Tamoguna. We can see that. Therefore, it is obvious that these gunas are seen through the actions. It is like when we have disease. We don't see the disease, but the symptoms, the sufferings that we go through, these are all clearly shows that we have disease. Likewise, the 3 gunas, though it is not perceived directly, seen directly, we can clearly see its presence in our body, in our mind. Why are we discussing about this now? Because unless we are free from the impact of these 3 gunas, we will not be able to focus ourselves towards Atma. And for us to be free of impact of these 3 gunas and control raga and dvesha, which produces the attachment and hatred, and which gives us happiness and distress, we have to perform karma yoga. Unless and until one performs karma yoga, these things will not go away. If these things doesn't go away, then obviously we will not be able to meditate upon Atma. If we are not meditating upon Atma, our interest will be on material things, towards the senses and sense objects. Therefore, by performing karma yoga, one will be able to handle the impact of three gunas, and then the raga and dvesha will be gone. When they are gone, my attachment and hatred will also go away. When those things are gone, I will not get impacted by any of the happy events that happens or any of the disturbing event that happens around me. I will be able to focus on self, Atma. As we continue to meditate upon the Atma continuously, then our interest and taste towards senses and sense objects are destroyed. Our vasanas from the previous and current lives are gone. Then we will be able to attain the Atma Sakshatkara. When one continues their meditation, then one will come to a proper knowledge and understanding that the Atma is full of knowledge, Jnanamaya. Atma is eternal servant of the Lord. Atma never gets affected by any faults of this world. When that knowledge is achieved and realized, it is called Atma Sakshatkara. When this happens, bhakti towards Krishna then easily takes place. There is one last point that we need to discuss from this sloka, that is sarva-karma-phala-tyāgaṁ, which will connect everything that we have learned so far in this sloka. We will do that in our next session. Namaste. Hare Krishna.